Hey everyone, this is Avinash back with another video. In this video, let's discuss about how ChatGPT works. We discussed how LLM works and how NLP is used to build LLMs in the previous video. Now let's discuss one example of LLM, in fact the world's most famous large language model, ChatGPT. So let's get started. Let me share you my presentation. So how ChatGPT works, and this is how ChatGPT works. I know it might be super overwhelming for the most of you guys, but that's okay. I'll explain it to you as if you're a 12-year-old in a most simple terms possible. And by the way, if we have any ML engineers or data scientists over here, I want to make things simple. So if at all you find any kind of discrepancies, please don't mind. I know exactly how ChatGPT works. I could talk 3 hours on exactly how ChatGPT works, but I don't want to go in depth. And we'll have Madhu in the course of AI for developers who will take care of this particular explanation to super nerdy technical people. He will take one whole 2 to 3 hour session with a full Q&A and explain how ChatGPT works in the most detailed way possible that was there on the internet. So, but even for that, this video, which might be for 15-20 minutes, will act as your pre-training, right? So if you complete this, you'll get the gist of how ChatGPT works, so that you could go understand that particular video better. But for non-technical people, you don't need to watch that video. This video is more than enough. Without any further ado, let's go understand how ChatGPT works. So just before anything, ChatGPT created a massive data center which we call a supercomputer. Inside the supercomputer, they hosted a deep neural network called transformers. What is neural network? Simple. Just like every human has a biological neurons in our brain, which takes all the decisions in our brain, basically everything that you are doing right now, because your neuron wants to do it, right? The more neurons that gets activated, the better quality decisions you take. The more neurons involved in taking a decision, the quality of the decisions will be directly impacted. Just like that, this neurons which were in the biology, like in our brain, ML scientists replicated, or maybe data scientists, whoever it is, replicated that human neurons in a computer and named it as a deep neural network, right? These neurons mimic human brain, right? And why we are doing it? As simple as to give the power of human brain to computer. That's it. So now machine learning scientists created deep neural network, and that deep neural network, in this case ChatGPT, created one form of deep neural network and named that type of neural network, this architecture, as transformers. Inside this transformers, what happens is they take large amount of data and process it in the whole step-by-step manner. And how this processing happens? With parameters. With the help of parameters, the whole data data processing happens. So they take large amount of data from the internet. It can be from Wikipedia, it can be from Reddit, Twitter, or any physical book, or anything, any open source thing, right? Anything that is legally okay to be processed, they collect the data, give it to it, and then before actually processing the whole data, they need to have parameters. So they'll go to this transformers and say, hey transformers, I will give you the computational resources, but it's your responsibility to come up with parameters. Parameters are nothing like how to take decisions and how to process the information. That's it. So basically how to process the information. So this is a point. Okay, to understand this particular thing, you need to understand this. All these are parameters, right? So to understand the parameters, what this whole transformers does is they'll just read this whole massive amount of data and find out few patterns in it. Once patterns were formed, depending upon those patterns, they'll have some patterns with weights. The more data into a model, the more stronger parameters. The more stronger patterns, the more stronger parameters. To get to 1 billion parameters, maybe this model needs to observe and find out trillions of patterns, right? Patterns is nothing but, hey, humans talk in this way in this situation. Humans do this when they get that, something like that. So they have like, we have unlimited amounts of patterns, we could find in basically one book itself, right? So just imagine the whole world's data. We have like trillions of them, and then from those trillions of patterns, they'll get one parameter, and using that parameter, this algorithm process this large amount of data. Like, we'll get to a step by step, but I am explaining what happens in every step, like together what happens in transformers. First, data is being dumped. Second, parameters are being finalized from the pattern absorption and pattern recognition from all the data it was being fed. And third, it is unsupervised learning. That means there is no rules. Like, ChatGPT doesn't say to the transformers that, hey, when someone asks this, give that. No, it is just saying, hey, there's a large amount of data. You know the patterns, you know the parameters. When anyone asks, create answer from scratch. That's why it's generative AI, not detecting AI or classification AI or something. There's no rules. It's not saying do this when that happens. It's just saying, I'm giving you the data, you're figuring out patterns, I'm giving you the computational resources, you have parameters, just do what it takes to give the answer, one word at a time. From the answer you get, from the question you have, predict the best first word possible for your answer. Once the first word happens, depending upon your question and the first word, predict the second word of the answer. Do the same for the third word, fourth word, 100th word, 1000th word, 8000th word, and just do on and do that for 10,000 words. That's the reason it's a generative AI. Got it? The technology here is generative AI because it's generating each word at a time from the scratch with no rules involved in the training process. So now we understood, what overall happens in the transformers. Large amount of data is being fed. Processing of the data happens because of using parameters and no supervised learning. So these are the three things that happens in the transformers. So now that we know how the whole thing works, let's understand what happens in each step. I'll not go in detail, but I'll just again go explain this whole 10 steps in 3 points. So the first, when input goes, they will divide the whole data into embeddings. That means, imagine this massive amount of data has 1 lakh unique words. If I'm not wrong, there are 1.5 to 7 lakhs of unique words in the whole English language, right? So with the amount of data, imagine we have 1 lakh words, which are unique words. They'll take this 1 lakh unique words into separate buckets, right? All the similar words will go to one separate bucket. So that's what happened in input embedding. The next one is positional encoding. It's just giving tokenization, right? Okay, now that we have 1 lakh words divided into say 10,000 buckets, we're just going into each bucket, individually and going. So, okay, bucket number 1 is about names of vegetables. Okay, let's give bucket number 1 starting from 1. Like say if we have 10,000 or 5,000 vegetables, we're just giving 1 to 5,000 to each of this vegetable, and then going into fruits, and then going into something like that. So every bucket will name and do on and on and on. That's the positional encoding. So once this all happens, till now, it's actually pre-processing stage. The next step, after positional encoding is where the actual deep neural architecture starts. If I explain this to everyone, even very high-end machine learning engineers will not be able to process this, and it's not actually necessary to be a good user of AI. So Madhu will explain how this whole architecture was built and how this whole thing works. Mother will do that, but what I will say here is they'll take all the data, they'll do pre-processing, enter the data into this particular deep neural network architecture, so that this will process the whole thing and give us output probabilities at the end of this particular step. You see here, it's output probabilities. What it essentially does is it just gives us certain probabilities for each of the word and all that weights and stuff like that. So end of the day, transformers process the large amount of data, gets recognize patterns and form parameters, and then understand each and every word humans speak. So this is what overall transformers do. Next is when the fine-tuning. Fine-tuning is nothing but humans coming into the play and asking thousands of questions to this particular model, so that it will just test. It's just like examination is happening. We're just conducting different exams, like, who is Mahendra Singh Bahubali, who is Mahendra Bahubali, who is Mahendra Singh Dhoni, who is Mahesh Babu, who is Manoj Kumar, whatever. Like they'll ask like, what is this, what is that? They'll ask millions of questions, in fact, and then correct them if model gives the wrong answer. So once we do this on and on for a few months with the help of millions of machine learning engineers, not millions, but maybe thousands of machine learning engineers, model will have a better understanding and it will just course correct itself. Once fine tuning happens, that's when GPT gets in. GPT is like generative pre-trained transformer. So they got because this whole thing is called generative AI. I said you why it is generative. It is a pre-trained transformer, right? So once GPT-3 comes up, the transformers is already pre-trained, right? So they were just having all this and they will just input more and more data, and increase the amount of parameters, so that the amount of the processing of the data will be better with more parameters involved and the more data involved, right? So once GPT-3 happens, only two things happens in the GPT-4 or GPT-5 or GPT-6. We have all the network and everything in. What they do is only two things. They get more data from somewhere possible, till a point where there's no more data in the world to feed this particular transformer. So they'll just increase the amount of data, number one. Number two, increase the number of parameters. So why we need to increase the number of parameters? Very simple. More parameters will give us more patterns, and more patterns or more parameters these transformers will be able to understand nuts and bolts of everything humans say everywhere. That's it. So this is what happens. Fine-tuning happens. GPT-3 comes in. GPT-3 is just like a graduation ceremony. Once GPT-3 happens, ChatGPT invented something called Instruct GPT. Instruct GPT is like humans in the loop model to improve factuality, so that they can make ChatGPT-3 more grounded, less hallucinating, thus more able to become a conversational interface. To just put it in a simpler words, Instruct GPT is a step where we're taking someone super smart like GPT-3 and making them communication friendly. That's it. We're just teaching communication skills to just basically put it in a right word. Once Instruct GPT happens, communication skills happens, that's when we have our hero, a new kid in the market, which is ChatGPT. This is how ChatGPT works. Inside AI supercomputer, they hosted a deep neural network called transformers. Into these transformers, they put in large amount of data with the billions of parameters. We're not giving the parameters. We're asking it to figure out patterns and maybe figure out patterns and then make parameters out of those patterns, and then use these parameters to process this large amount of data with no supervised learning. That's it. So the whole transformers does this. So once this all thing happens, we get output probabilities, and then we fine tune each and every by asking like billions of questions, or maybe say not billions, maybe millions of questions by tens and thousands of machine learning engineers. Then GPT-3 comes in. So once GPT-3 step happens, next time whenever you want to upgrade the model, you don't need to do everything from scratch because it's already pre-trained. You just increase the data and increase the parameters. That's it. Once GPT-3 comes in, the next step is instruct GPT. It's just like basic communication skills training. And then we have chat GPT. That's it. I hope you understood it. If not, kindly rewatch it and attend any of the inner circle calls with your specific doubts. I'll be happy to answer. And I would like you to comment down in this video if you love my explanation. That would increase my energy for the upcoming inner circle calls. And that's it. And then if you are a technical person, understood each and everything and wanted to go more in depth on it, maybe in few days, Madhu will create his own video version of it, a bigger version and deeper version on it, so that, you can go pretty much in depth on it. That's it for this video, Freedom Hackers. Freedom Hackers. Thank you. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.